Alrighty, so this is a keyboard that I was working on when I built. We have some silent Tamu switches and a cheap Aliexpress keycap set. And it sounds pretty nice, pretty silent, but that's not quite my thing. So we're gonna change that. This is a brand new Kisnt KN85. And we're gonna play a little swapping game here, because this keyboard has some very nice sounding linear switches. We're going to put the silent switches in this keyboard, these are also linear, and make a silent KN85 and a thockier little 40% keyboard. So let's get to it. Alrighty, so with all the keycaps removed, it's now time to pull these switches back out, hopefully without breaking any, add them to my remaining extra switches that I have, and then we'll go ahead and start working on the KN85, pull the switches out of that after we pull the keycaps, and bring the switches over here. Alrighty, so I should have now about 90 of these switches, and I also have a completely empty housing now for the Kisnt keyboard switches. So I've already lubed my stabilizers when I did the initial swap from the switches that were in here to these linear silence. So let's put this to the side now and get our lovely brand new Kisnt keyboard. And go ahead and start the swap. I should be able to use, I believe so, should be able to use the keys from this hopefully in the swap, because I do, or the keycaps rather, I do like the keycaps on this better than this cheap Aliexpress set. I do like the color scheme here, but the quality is just not the par. I'm quite impressed that Kisnt is able to get this all delivered for about $40. But let me go ahead and we'll test this first as well. Looks like it works. Alrighty, without further delay, and let me just pull to confirm. So these are 5-pin. I've never pulled any switches from the Kisnt boards to actually confirm that they're 5-pin. I'd imagine they would be. If I could get a handle on the switch. They are 5-pin, so we should be good to just directly swap in these switches. All right. Keep going with pulling the keycaps, and then we'll get these switches in there. Alrighty. So I now have all the keycaps off. Now I just have to go ahead and pull all of these switches. Alright, so I have all of the switches pulled from the KN95, or KN85, and I'm just going to add some lube to our stabilizers. Alrighty, so now switch back to this keyboard where we can install all of our switches from the Kisnt keyboard. And of course, they're all now going to be north-facing switches. Alrighty, now I have all of the keys, the switches installed. So next will come the keycaps. Grab a quick image for the layout, so that way I know what key goes where. And I just want to make sure first that the larger keys fit in the right spots. I know there are some varieties of each of these that we can get. I'd imagine they should. So far, sounds pretty okay. Certainly doesn't sound as good as the Kisnt, but I'd imagine that's just because the Kisnt was designed around these switches. I also like that they include enough locations for the spacebar to mount. I'm guessing if you have different keyboards, keycap sets. Ooh, is that upside down? I think that was upside down. No, that feels more upside down. So the only issue here is there's, I guess, a select type key. So we might have to swap that with something from our remaining keys. See what might be most appropriate. I think either the home, insert, pause. I think we're gonna go with print. I don't think it's gonna be the right size. Looks a little out of place. What about take the FN key here? We could see the side profile. We want to find something that kind of matches that, like one of these arrow keys. Maybe a page up, delete, and actually doesn't look like it's too bad. It's still going to be the wrong size, but that looks like it fits a little better. Is still out of place. But besides that, the rest of the set should go on just fine. And we can hear actually once the keyboard's all back together. Sounds pretty good. I mean, this keyboard was dampened and I did add some foam to it. So now we have a nice little keyboard with some thocky switches and of course plenty of spares and the rest of our keycap set. That brings us to the other half of this build slash swap slash rearrangement. All right, let's get these switches in. Of course, now they will be south facing on this keyboard. Alrighty, so I now have all of the linear silent switches in. I'm still waiting on my keycap set to come in the mail, but it is definitely significantly quieter than it was previously, and we will see when I get that keycap set how it sounds once it's all assembled. Alrighty, so I've got some specialty keycaps here from Aliexpress. They look to be and claim to be double shot, and they're just little frog themed keys. They don't match our switch color quite well, but I think they should look kind of nice on this keyboard. So I'm going to start getting them put on, and then we can finally see how silent the KN85 will be with some silent linear Tamu switches. Alright, have the keys all on now. They're sitting flush and nicely mounted. And they do fit quite well. Ooh, insert, I accidentally put that one upside down. Fix that real quick. They're kind of tight to fit for some keys, but they overall fit pretty nice for a relatively cheap set on Aliexpress. Pretty silent too. Almost sounds like a membrane keyboard, but the KN85 here is like isolate mounted inside with some rubber, almost grommets, so it does have a bit deeper of a sound, which we can kind of hear here. It's not quite as quiet as it was in our little 60% board, these switches that is, but it is still significantly quieter than previously, and overall it does look pretty good with these keycaps in. They do complement the tan quite well. So yeah, I'll turn it on, see how it looks with some RGB behind it. Wow, the KN85 has some pretty good RGB, I must say. Those south-facing LEDs, they do beat out our north-facing of the little 60% board, but I think setting those RGB LEDs to a nice green would yield a pretty pleasing aesthetic look with this keyboard. That's pretty much it.